Welcome back, and thanks for joining me once again here on the Bonnie Lee. My name is Matt. We're here in beautiful Riviera Beach, South Florida. Today I've got my wife with me and my first mate, and one of the things I want to do for you guys is go over the transition from a recreationally registered vessel to a UPV or uninspected passenger vessel. So there's a lot of CFRs, that's the Code of Federal Regulations, that you have to follow. And so I'm going to do a mini series, chapter by chapter essentially, of what it takes to get there. So as I go through to make sure that my boat is compliant, I'll be going through those along with the CFRs with you. So stick around, we've got a lot to cover. Let's get after it. Alright, so we're going to be going through the requirements for an uninspected passenger vessel. So if you're wanting to charter your own boat out and go through all the proper procedures, one of the things you're going to have to do is take your boat from the requirements of a recreational registered vessel to a commercial registered vessel. So right now I'm not commercial, I haven't done anything, but I'm in the process of getting the boat prepared for my complimentary Coast Guard inspection. So there is a really good resource for you. I'm going to provide the link right below so that you can download this guide. It's what I'm going to be using, and then once I get to the point of having the inspection done, if there's any gaps that I may have missed, they'll fill me in on that, but I want to make sure I go through that list. So if you open that up, one of the first things that they talk about besides the licensing requirements and so on is your communications. What is required to be on the boat for communications? And that's going to fall under CFR, it's 33 CFR 26.03A subsection 1. And what it says is if you are a UPV, all UPVs of at least 20 meters and over, which is 65 feet, must have one or more VHF FM radios on board prescribed by 33 CFR 26 and 47 CFR 80, and to be compatible with transmitting and receiving on channel 22A, which is 157.1 megahertz. So most of your radios, if they have the distress button on it, they should be ready to go with that. It's a DSC calling. And then if you are going to be traveling on international waters, there's a couple other little things. So on my boat, we're going to take a peek at what I've got and kind of go over some of it so that way you can be a little bit better equipped. So let's take a peek at that right now. So this is the radio currently installed on my boat. It is a Garmin VHF 200. We can look right here. This is the distress feature here, and in order to get that to work, you're going to need an MMSI number. And we're going to go over that a little bit more later. But I do have the distress. It's currently sitting on dual watch, channel 9 and channel 16. And if we scroll around, let's exit out of that. And if we scroll up, we see that we are able to get onto 22A, and it's listed as Coast Guard. Now this radio also gives me my GPS coordinates. I do have a new radio coming. This one, we have a little bit of a problem with the microphone cable. It's completely dry rotted. This radio is discontinued, so you can't even buy a replacement one. So I do have a Garmin 215 with AIS, the automatic identification system, coming in, and we'll be putting that in the boat as soon as the back order is released. For anybody that's got a vessel that is over 65 feet, if we're looking at that guidebook, it does tell you the requirements if you are required to have an AIS or automatic identification system. It does apply to all vessels 65 feet or greater in length, and the AIS Class A device is required. Now, that is something that this boat is capable of having on board. It would integrate real simple into the system. The new radio that I've got coming, that will receive AIS, or the identification. So each ship is transmitting their name, vessel information. I'll be able to see that on my radar screen. The current radio does not receive AIS, so I can see boats on radar, but I don't know who they are specifically. So for me to get to that level of AIS transmit and receive, I would need to add a new computer box into the boat, and the price doesn't justify needing it for a vessel of this size. So that is one of the things that I am not going to go above and beyond. Is getting AIS transmitting capability on the boat. I mean, it's a special radio, it's a special box, special antenna, and it's just not really going to be something that I need. But if you are over 65 feet, that's going to be something that you're going to want to make sure that you have, not just the receive, because a lot of boats will receive AIS information, but they will not transmit. Another radio that you're going to want to have, now this is on that communication side of things. It does say when transmitting in any waters within a vehicle or a vessel traffic service area, so the VTS area, a second VHF FM radio must also be on board, which is 33 CFR 26.03. And it's always going to be a good idea that you have that second VHF radio in your possession anyways, whether you're required to have it or you're not. Because if you have a problem on the boat, let's say your battery area floods or your batteries are completely dead, how are you going to operate your main ship radio? So for me, I've got a Cobra Marine HH600. It does have the DSC calling, the digital selective calling, channel 16 quick button on it, and on the side we also have the distress feature. Now that distress button on any radio is going to be activated through your MMSI number. And if you don't know what that is, we'll go over that a little bit later. So it is important that you get with the FCC. I'll put the link below on where you can go to start the process of getting that. For me, one of the processes I had to do when I bought the boat was the boat came with the radio that's installed, the Garmin VHF 200. The MMSI number that you are putting into the radio, that sticks with the boat. So the previous owner, he didn't know how to change ownership of the boat from him to me. So I had to send an email out to the FCC to have them deactivate his MMSI and reassign it to me. So currently in this stage, the boat has two MMSI numbers, one for the equipped radio that's on the console, and then I have my own MMSI and ship station license for everything else. Once I get my new radio in from back order, then that'll have the ship station MMSI, so then we'll effectively have just one MMSI. I'll let the FCC know that the one that they transferred to me is no longer in effect, and they can cancel that one out. And that's important because if I didn't do that, let's say I went ahead and hit the distress button and it sends out the distress message, it's going to pull up all the information from the previous owner, his address, any emergency contacts he put in the system, so it doesn't do me any good to hit the distress button. Sure, they'll have my location, but they're not going to know who I am. So I got everything switched over and it's in my name. So one of the things I got for this boat, it is not required, it is the radio station license, or the ship station license. And it says that a radio transmitting devices on board UPVs of 20 meters, which is 65 feet or greater, and UPVs with single sideband radios, the SSB, must be licensed by the FCC. The licenses are valid for 10 years, and if the license was just recently applied for, a UPV should have a copy of the FCC Form 605 and its accompanying Schedule B for use as a temporary permit. So the ship station license for this boat, we're clearly under 65 feet, we're 25 foot 6 inches, so I don't need to have a ship station license. However, there is a little caveat when you look at what the requirements are for having a ship station license. If you travel to foreign ports, you do have to have the ship station license and your second VHF radio. So I went ahead and got that. I don't plan on taking this vessel to any foreign ports, but you just never know. So it was a couple bucks to get that license, the ship station license. And when I took my classes up at Chapman School of Seamanship in Stewart, I did get my marine radio operator's permit as well, so if I jump on somebody else's boat in any sort of working capacity, I'm at least licensed to operate the radios, and then this vessel here is covered completely, and then more so than what's required. Okay, so here's a few final thoughts on communication and a little bit of clarification on why I'm doing what I'm doing. And you have to make your own determinations, follow the CFRs, contact a maritime attorney or the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary for any clarification for your particular vessel. So when I start looking at the CFRs and all the different requirements for radio gear, MMSIs, EPIRBs, and so on, you can kind of go down a rabbit hole of conflicting information or things that aren't as clear as they should be. So when I go to the FCC webpage directly and it says who needs a ship station license, you can go right to the fcc.gov website, and it basically says that you do not need a license to operate a VHF radio, radar, or EPIRBs aboard voluntary ships operating domestically. The term voluntary ships refers to ships that are not required by law to carry a radio. So if you are required by law to carry a radio through whatever CFRs that you're under, then you do need to get a ship station license. For example, one of the things that it says that if you have to have it is if you're required to carry an AIS system transceiver, then you need to have a ship station license. If you are having more than 6 passengers, you need to have a ship station license. And then if I go over to the FCC, they have another little document, it's how to conduct an inspection of a small passenger vessel. You know, they have exclusions where you need to have a radio if you go out over 3 miles, but if you're less than 1,000 feet offshore, you don't have to have a radio at all. So there's a lot of little conflicting informations. I'm a small vessel, I'm 25 foot 6 inches. I don't necessarily plan on going to foreign ports, but the possibility is always there. So I went ahead and got a ship station license issued through the FCC. And when you get a ship station license through the FCC, there's a fee involved, it's $220, but then they issue you an MMSI number that corresponds with that ship station license. When I bought the boat, it came with that marine radio, the Garmin VHF 200, and it already had a MMSI number programmed into it. Any radio that has DSC calling, the digital selective calling, or that emergency button on the radio, you do have to put in an MMSI number before you transmit. That's one of the requirements under, looks like, the Communications Act, sections 381 through 386. So if you do have that, you need to have the MMSI number. In my particular case, the previous owner had put in his MMSI number into the radio, and once it's there, it's burned in. So I had a couple different options in order to get that the radio on the boat to have my information pull up in case I have to hit that button. So I could take the radio out, send it to Garmin, pay a $50 fee, have no radio on the boat because with the way things are right now, everything's on back order. They would wipe the memory, send it back to me, and then I could put in the MMSI number that I was issued through the FCC. The other option was to have the MMSI number transferred over to me. Luckily, that license went through Boat US. Recreational vessels do not have to have a ship station license in any form, but you can get the MMSI number outside of the FCC through Boat US. I think CETO, and there's another organization that is authorized to issue recreational MMSIs. So I contacted Boat US, gave them the MMSI number that was programmed into the radio, said I have the previous owner's information, I have a bill of sale, I have my registration, I would like to have that MMSI number taken out of his name and put into my name. So they granted me access to update all the information, and so now I have a Boat US issued MMSI, which is for recreational vessels, on the radio that's in the boat now. Once my new radio comes in that's on back order forever, then I will put my new FCC issued MMSI number into that new radio, and that'll match the one that's on my VHF, and it'll match the one that corresponds with my EPIRB and PLB. I can either take that radio out and throw it away because it's discontinued and you can't get parts for it anyway, or keep it as a backup for later. And if that's the case, if I ever need to put my FCC license in there, then I will have to send that radio back in to have that wiped of its current MMSI number. So keep that in mind. If you bought a used boat, make sure that you update that MMSI. It's probably one of the biggest overlooked things when it comes to these newer radios. And again, you can go right to the FCC. They issued me a ship. I'm not going to show you because it's got all my information on there, but I got an FCC call sign for the boat that comes with a MMSI number when I applied for that, $220. And then I also got my marine radio operator's permit to be able to run the radio. So in the event I go to a foreign port, I do have my required now ship station license to go to a foreign port to talk to foreign governments, the port authorities. And then I do have my radio operator's license that goes with that requirement. If you're not traveling to foreign ports, you're not working on anybody else's boats, it's just, you're a small passenger vessel, you may not need all that. I erred on the side of caution and went with everything that you could possibly get, so when in doubt, go with more. I have my MMSI number for the radio on the boat from Boat US. That'll eventually get canceled out. And then I also have my EPIRB and PLB. Those get registered with NOAA on their website. It's a couple little forms that you fill out. You put in your beacon ID numbers, and with my EPIRB specifically, the EPIRB, let's see, it's this one right here, this one. The EPIRB also has the MMSI number and radio call license, or the radio call sign attached to the EPIRB. So everything is linked together, so in the event of an emergency, I want to get found, I want passengers to get found. I hope it never gets to that point, but I've gone overboard in the terms of safety for the vessel. If anything catastrophic goes wrong, I want the best chance of any sort of recovery with redundancy systems put into place. So that kind of covers the communication side of that CFR. We certainly have a whole lot more to go through in that workbook. Definitely check out the video description. I will have links to everything that I have been using so that you have access to it as well, so you can be better educated and ready to transform your boat from recreational to uninspected passenger vessel. So we definitely have a lot more to cover. Stick around. I will be doing more and more and more of these videos as I go through them, and it's just going to help reinforce those CFRs with me, but maybe also provide you with a little bit more knowledge as you transition your vessel into the direction that I'm also going. So stick around, we've got more to go over, so let's get after it.